Hey innovators, what's going on? I love to garden. Seeing things grow reminds me of how precious life is and how important our role as human beings is to preserve the environment. Today, we're going to be making self-watering terrariums. These small little terrariums are self-watering because they use the greenhouse effect in order to cycle water through. So you only have to water it once, and then it sustains itself. We'll be trying out a variety of different seeds, and I'm going to show you how to prepare this terrarium so that it grows all sorts of stuff for the next few weeks.
All right, so let's gather all the materials that we need. You're going to need some kind of vessel or container, so you can use a jar with a lid on it. You can also use this bottle and just cut the top off, or you can use a tennis canister, which is what I'm using currently. You're also going to need soil, of course, so go out into your backyard or your neighborhood, or if you have any potting soil in your backyard, grab some of that. You're going to need a little bit of sand. If you have some loose pebbles or rocks, that would be great. Make sure you grab some of those. And they don't have to be this small. They can actually be a little bit larger. Then you're going to need seeds. This is where you can get creative. Look around and see what you have. If you don't have dry seeds, you can also use beans or legumes like lentils. Those will work just great. And last, grab a spoon. It could be a plastic spoon or metal spoon, but that'll help you out.
So now that you've gathered your materials, let's get started. First, you're going to choose which container you want to use. Again, use what's available at home. Look around, maybe ask a neighbor or ask a family member if they've seen a jar, maybe an empty water bottle that you can cut the top off to. Or in my case, I'm going to use this tennis ball container. It's perfect. The canister is long enough for me, it's transparent, and it has a lid. If you're going to use a jar, just make sure that you empty out the jar and you clean it well, and that you have a lid that goes on top of it so that you can seal it. Now, if you're just going to use a bottle that you've cut open, make sure you get some plastic wrap or some saran wrap that you're able to put along the top, and then you can secure with a rubber band. So, once you've selected your container, make sure that it's nice and clean. I've washed mine, and I'm going to take a quick rag just to dry it off. Make sure that it's not too wet, because I don't want to make a big mess. All right. And once it's ready to go, we can get started.
All right, so we have our clean container that's going to be the home of our terrarium. Okay, we have a lid, and then we're going to use a spoon or something to shovel some material into it. Let's start off with the sand. So we want to make a nice layer of sand right at the bottom. This is going to help with drainage and to retain water. So you're going to put that at the bottom, maybe about an inch of your container. If it's not level, you can just move your container around to flatten it out. That looks just about right. All right, now we're going to take some pebbles, small stones, or gravel, and we're going to layer them gently right above the sand. And again, you just want to make a nice even layer. Spin your container slowly so that you're distributing the material evenly, and just keep adding. As you can tell, there's a few big stones here in my collection of pebbles, and that's just fine. All right, that looks good. Level it out, and let's take a closer look. That looks just about right. Okay, so now let's add some dirt. Great, so now grab your dirt or potting soil and let's start to add it to our terrarium. I have here about half a cup of soil, which I think will be just fine. I'm going to slowly sprinkle it into my terrarium. You don't want to dump it all at once, just to make sure that it's nice and even. As I slowly pour it in, I'm going to turn my container so that I get a nice even layer. All right, and you want it to be about 2 to 3 inches above the sand. So let's just add a little bit more. All right, so all of the soil and material is about a little less than halfway up my terrarium, and I think that's going to be perfect. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. All right. So now comes the important part, choosing your seeds. Now, you may not have dry seeds at home. These are some wheat seeds, so think creatively. You can also use beans or legumes. Okay, so look around your pantry. Maybe you have some pinto beans, kidney beans, or even lentils that you can use. So, once you've made your selection, you're going to take your canister and you're going to slowly sprinkle a couple of seeds through the top opening. And you don't want to throw them in there. You also don't want to try to stick your hand in there. All you have to do is kind of sprinkle them on top. I'm doing one side of wheat seeds and the other side with a couple of beans. And easy does it. All right. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to put a thin layer of dirt right on top in order to cover our seeds and beans. So, grab just a little bit of dirt and you're going to want to layer a thin layer. Spin your canister slowly and that looks about right. Just enough to cover up the beans and the seeds. Okay, now comes the important part. Let's water.
All right, so my innovative gardeners, we've created our terrarium. We've created nice layers of sand and pebble and dirt. We've planted our seeds, and now we're ready to water. Now this is a crucial step in the project. You see, this is a self-watering terrarium, so you're only going to add water to it once, and hopefully the water cycle process will continue to keep the dirt moist. But we'll jump into that in just a few minutes. I have here about half a cup of water, and I'm going to slowly pour it into my terrarium. I want to make sure that I'm not disturbing the dirt, that I'm keeping those layers defined. We don't want it to become a big, muddy mess.
So one suggestion I have is that you pour your water slowly down the side of your terrarium. This will allow it to slowly soak into the different layers without making mud. You want the water to go down, to penetrate through the different layers, and to make sure that everything is soaked. Make sure that you don't make puddles. That's what you want to avoid. All right, now let's find a sunny spot. This looks pretty good. Make sure that your terrarium is getting lots of sunlight during the day. And if all goes well, in a couple of days, you're going to see that your seeds are starting to sprout. Nice work.
Well, it seems I do have a green thumb after all. Our self-watering terrariums were a success. Now this is probably the most interesting part about our project, is that now you have this self-sustaining little terrarium where you get to experiment. So try different combinations of dirt, sand, and gravel. Also try different seeds. Some seeds may sprout much better than others. The great thing is once they start to sprout, you can then move them to your garden or you can pot them in a larger pot. Try different combinations. Explore and innovate and try different things out.
Our little terrarium is a self-sustained ecosystem. As the soil begins to rot, it'll create carbon dioxide, which our little plants will then use for the miracle of photosynthesis. They'll take in the sunlight, which will also produce heat, which will cause the water inside of the terrarium to evaporate, then condensate, and drip back down. It's all self-sustained. All
right, my innovators, so we are done gardening for the day. But we made some awesome terrariums today that water themselves, that use the water cycle in order to help the plants grow. Everything they need is inside of the terrarium. Awesome. So continue to experiment, try out different seeds, try different combinations of dirt and sand, and different amounts of water and see what you get. Because remember, using design thinking to explore is a great way to prototype, to test, and to try things out again and again. So remember to think creatively and to think critically. Thanks for watching the video and make sure to watch the rest.